I reminded you that you are perfect, would you argue me down or step into your perfection? Welcome to Perfect Mode, where there are no excuses, no expectations, and we explore the world without limitations. I'm JClay, rapper, the spiritual teacher, with my co-host Troy Washington, your friendly neighborhood realtor. Let's be real, so let's be perfect. Perfect. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode. Perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode.
Perfect.
What up? Welcome to Perfect Mode. And first off, let me start by telling y'all that we love y'all. We're grateful for the opportunity to be anywhere, sharing our thoughts, hopefully helping you realize that you are perfect. And the reason why I can say that unapologetically is because I know that you are one of one, numero uno. You cannot be replicated, duplicated, none of that. And the only reason you would think that you're not perfect is if you're looking at the person on the side of you and saying, I'm not them. But guess what? You are you, and that's all you need. And of course, it's yours truly, Troy Washington, your friendly neighborhood realtor, and I have my boy JClay, spiritual rapper and teacher, and we about to jump on here talk about seeing beyond the illusory nature of the world. Man, you talking about tongue twister right there, but I got it because I'm perfect, baby.
Happy
What
day,
up,
happy
Jay?
Sunday to all my perfect people in perfect land doing the perfect thing. Real quick, before we jump into this, well first, shout out to the Patreons. Go ahead and click that link in the description to support Perfect Mode. I want to kind of recap of last week because we were talking about the whole decluttering and kind of, simplifying our space, filling it with the things that are joyful. I was able to do this. I'm very grateful. Like it changed the course of my week last week. I think I got rid of some old clothes, just some little knickknacks and stuff, and books, which led me to some more books, which has been changing my life and stuff now. But just wanted to know your experience with it.
So, well, I mean, right when we got off, I literally started going and getting rid of stuff. And funny enough, it's one thing that I also want to touch on about the decluttering. Our trash runs on Mondays, but I didn't want to wait until Monday morning to do it. I wanted to put it out because I felt like, well, some of the stuff that I can get rid of, I'm pretty sure somebody will come and grab it. And literally, I put a TV outside. I put some toys that were Brody's that he doesn't play with anymore outside. And literally before, night fell, all that stuff was already gone. Like somebody came and got it. So just knowing that I was able to give something away that somebody wanted to use or was going to use, I felt like was a big deal. But not only that, just, having more space for myself makes me feel better. And I even have it as a ritual for myself now. That's what I made a staple on Sundays. I'm going to get rid of something else. Yeah, man, it's definitely it definitely was a good feeling, and I'm happy about what I was able to do last week.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, and I highly recommend it. Again, check out last week's episode. And declutter, man. Let go of that stuff that is not bringing a smile to your face right now. That's adding to the burden of just things. So yeah, let's talk about it, man. Seeing beyond the illusory nature of the world. The illusory nature.
So I want you to go ahead and just dive in and tell me what were your thoughts when you first saw this specific category topic.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to jump right in. I have to go in deep because there's a way that I see the world now, and I also want to continue seeing it. Like I can't say that it's fully automatic now, but it's a remindering to myself of this, and essentially, your eyes are like projectors. It's not so much that there's a world out there. You're projecting what's in the inside to the outside. Like really, there's only one relationship. It's you and God, and the stuff that you're reflecting from this projector, you're projecting your idea of God. or you could be extending God if you kind of align with who God is. And so a lot of times we see this world as we can see it as a dark place. We can see it as a place that we got to work hard. We can see it as a place that is full of challenges, and we forget that as the one who is projecting, not we think we're interacting with what's out there, but we forget that as the one that's projecting, we could change what we're feeding that projector so that it changes everything else. And so it's almost like, how would you see God? How do you see God? Like if I'm looking at you, I may not realize that I'm looking at God. If I'm looking at this wall, I'm looking at God. Like God is everything there is. And we have that relationship with I was going to say he, but it's he and her. It's the collective of all that is real. And it's kind of seeing past everything else and seeing that what we are seeing is how we want God to be versus how God really is.
So it's a couple things that come to my mind just hearing you, but also, me thinking about the way that we perceive things. And, growing up, I used to go to church all the time. And one of the things that, I would commend most churches for is they always had this saying, come as you are.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I feel like that's prominent in this conversation is because, when you even go on and describe that when you're looking at me, depending on the way I perceive it, it's like you're seeing God, a construct of God, a spirit of God, like however you want to interpret it. But when I think about the come as you are, I look at that as an interpretation of God. You know what I mean? And that's the reason why everything has to be acceptable in a sense. It doesn't mean that, condoning things that are not of your character or that you think is right, but also not being a person that's judging things that you don't agree with. That's, like I said, that's how I hear it. But when I think, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
Well, I guess I was going to go on to say that, I've been testing, this concept over and over again for weeks, even prior to this being a topic on our show, and changing my thought process on what I'm looking at to see if I can redefine. And I don't want to say just things, but just the way that I feel about it and the way that it affects my life. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, and what I'm saying too is not only okay, but like this, from birth, a lot of us are taught to see the differences in everything. Like, look this, what's this? What's this? What's this item? What's that? What's that? And we start to learn how to identify things. We start to look for the separation. But when you look at things, what does everything have in common? What unites everything? And that's God. And so no matter what you're looking at, if you're perceiving it as outside of yourself, is God. Even if that's your worst enemy, even if that's the person you think did the most heinous thing, is because again you are separating things. You're defining an outline of energy, but it's really all one thing, and we can enjoy it as such if we choose to. But again, it is based on what we think of the world. What we think of the world, we're going to experience until we stop thinking of that, or try something new and say, you know what, God, how would you want me to see the world? How would you want me to experience all of this?
So this is the funny thing. Again, this is just me giving back what I hear you saying, but also my interpretation of it. And
Yeah.
I don't think is that we're seeing everything else as apart from God or not God or not that thing. It's we're seeing ourselves apart from that because we're judging everything based off of how we feel. One thing that I've always heard people say prior to us doing this show is nobody's perfect. And so, like, I know from personal experience, when I've said that, it was because I was judging something within myself that I felt like should not be acceptable. And when I saw people doing these things, it made it easier for me to reaffirm what I already believed, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why, to your point, you're right. But I think it's more about the internal or the person that we are that's making, which is the reason why our perception is the way that it is. Because they can't be perfect because I'm not. Go ahead, Jay.
Right. And the thing is, like, when people say nobody is perfect, they are creating the circumstances, like you said, where nobody is perfect, not even themselves. And why would you want to live in a world like that? I mean, and the thing is, we don't always stop to think that we have a choice in the matter. We think that, we have to take everything at face value as it is. We think if there was an event in our past that it has to define us right now, and that's the end all be all. But we don't even realize how much even the past events, we're still giving meaning to in this current moment. We're still seeing through those eyes of that event, and we don't necessarily have to. We can reshape it to how we would want to see it in our image. It's like we're looking at the void where everything is just shapeless, without form. We are the ones that give it form.
Yeah, and again, to that point, like and I know we're saying the exact same thing, because literally you're putting the onus back on the person. And I think even in our topic, saying seeing beyond the illusory nature of the world, like that illusory nature is all defined within. It's all, what we have dictated at some point. And again, just to bring myself back to the fold in it, like there are things that when I was younger, I judged as wrong. Like I literally just said it is it's a bad thing. And the craziest part about it, at the point where I judged it, matter of fact, let me just kind of give you a story. One day when we were in college, this is we were in college, and we went to a party. And if you know anything about a college party, when you show up, they make you drink at the door so that way you can get the discount, because they know nobody has a lot of money to spend. So we take shots at the door to get in for free. And then at this party, we everybody's drinking trash can punch. Can you still hear me though?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
I know my camera went out, but everybody's drinking this trash can punch, and everybody's just kind of wasted at this point. And so we get ready to leave, and when we leave, I'm the person driving, and I know that I am messed up, but everybody in the car is like completely just out of it. So on my way home, I have all these thoughts that come into my head. Now, this is the illusory nature of it all. I've said I could kill everybody right now because of what this thing has done to me. And so right in that moment, I deemed alcohol as the devil. Like, it's bad. It's the worst thing ever. Boom, it's just kind of how my nature was, because I was so afraid of what was going to happen to everybody, even though nothing happened. So from that point forward, I was like, no alcohol, forget it. Anybody that do it, crazy. Anytime somebody said they did, it was crazy. Girls that I dated, like, you don't need to do this. I went through this whole 2 years of life where I was just like, no. Then fast forward, me and you go on a trip. And the first time I'm drinking again, after all of this time, I'm drinking with you. And I didn't want to do it at the time. And I went ahead and took the plunge. And I had the time of my life, but the circumstances were different. And I was able to reframe my thinking. But what happened is, in the point of me reframing my thinking, I thought about all the things that I judged a certain way within that time frame, that 2 years. And I realized how much separation I even made more of myself because of me deeming something a certain way. Now, again, neither right nor wrong is what I'm saying, but I'm just showing you how my perception of it dictated my life. It dictated who was there. It dictated who was going to be able to give to me, who was going to be able to help lead me, to who was going to be able to be attached to me for that entire period. But go ahead, Jay. I'm going to try to get my camera right while I'm doing it.
Yeah. So the thing is too with that, like, we often believe that. Well, no. How do I say this? The thing is, we've been taught a certain way to see the world. We've been taught to see the differences and everything. And after years of doing that, how could we possibly come back to seeing the world as it really is? It, like, get rid of all the illusion. And the thing is, that is technically too big of a burden for us to handle ourselves, because again, we're so fixated in how we see the world. This is years of practice. This is years of all of this. And one of the things I'm saying is that if you're willing to tap into a higher power that knows, you will be guided fully. But to that, it kind of comes surrender and acceptance. Like, accepting the fact that, okay, I've lived the world according to this way, but I'm still not getting what I want to get. I'm not experiencing what I thought I should experience. I'm still feeling these ill feelings. Like that, there has to be another way. And by being willing to say, okay, I don't know everything. I need to tap into that higher power. You can be guided. Like the same way you know that you didn't create yourself. Like in a way you did, but at the same time you don't know how, so you didn't create yourself. And by surrendering to that same power that created you, you can recreate the world, the world of your dreams, the life that you always envisioned for yourself, because you are the projector, the one who creates all of the world. Like this world doesn't exist in this way without you looking at it a certain way. And if we can remember that, it changes everything.
And you know what's funny about that is that we are professionals at surrendering and accepting. We are all professionals at it because we surrender and accept something every single day. Even in my story, I surrendered and accepted a specific way of thinking within a moment's time. Like it was second nature. Then I changed that within a moment's time, like it was second nature. But even in our day-to-day lives, like no matter what that is, there is surrendering and accepting what you deem to be the path, no matter what. And I think that where the work is coming in is if you're feeling like what you surrendered and accepted to is not what you want. And again, I know that sometimes trying to determine that is a difficult thing. But the reality of it is, the one thing that I know that, like you said, one thing we all are as God, but one thing I will equate that to is we all have a feeling. We all have this intuition, and you know when the way that you've surrendered and accepted is not what you really want, even though you feel like it's what you feel like you have to accept. And I think that's where the work essentially starts. It's taking, you know, being the professional that you are of finding out something new. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, right. Because again, like that, a lot of times, like you said, we surrender to something that's outside of ourselves. Now, again, we're learning that nothing exists outside of ourselves because it's within that we're projecting outward. But if you're seeing outward as separate from yourself, and then you're accepting something that's outside of yourself as law, like certain problems that people come into contact, like I got this issue or whatever, you you're giving something to something that's lesser than you because you are the creator of it in a way. And again, like, and it's all about that remembrance. Like, remember who you are, remember your perfection, remember what you are tied to, and you can have a different relationship with everything, with everyone you've ever experienced, with everything. And it's like as you rewrite these relationships through the eyes of that higher viewing, so to speak, you'll have more waves of peace, more waves of joy, more waves of just like, man, is life too easy now? Like, and then you can start stepping into the challenges that you really want to, but then even those you remember, oh, this is not even really a challenge. Let's just have some fun.
So I'm gonna ask you a question, but I'm gonna hear something that you did say, and I'm gonna tell everybody life is too easy. But I understand why we feel like it's not number one. But when you talk about projects, because again, I want to make sure we hit home on this seeing beyond the illusory nature of the world, the seeing beyond the illusory, like what you're seeing. Like if you were talking to a 12-year-old, right? And you were talking about everything that we see as a projection of the way that we feel like things are. How would you explain that to them?
Yeah, I would ask questions like I would take something and say like what do you see? You know, somebody may say a pen. Um, somebody, they could say anything. I could say, well, can't you make beats with this? You know, like wouldn't that make it a drumstick? And I would show them that everything you see, you've defined it. You gave it a meaning, whether somebody else told you that meaning or whether you just concluded it on your own. Probably wouldn't use the word conclude because I don't know if I knew what that meant at 12. Maybe I did. Yeah, that's 12 years old. I'm thinking of a 6-year-old. But yeah, I would make them see, and then I would ask questions again about even problems that they have. Like, what's something that plagues you, and what about it gives you pause? and start asking them questions about that and seeing if they can reframe it. And if they can reframe it and see it in a new light, then it never was what it once was. And even because it would always stay the same. Like if anything changes, it's not real. And I know sometimes. Oh, okay, go ahead.
No. And I just wanted to say the reason why I asked that way.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily tied to my kids because this is exercise. These are things that I work on with them all the time. But the reality is that even though I think that a big portion of the people that listen to our show are adults and are wise beyond their own years and smart, and they actually bring stuff to the table for us, we also understand that the understanding of the way that we perceive things is not necessarily the clearest thing to everybody. You know what I'm saying? Because I always tell you, I remember the time, I remember the day when I realized I'm gonna tell you what's crazy about this. I remember the day when I realized that I was in control of everything. I remember the day when it clicked in my head and I was looking in the mirror and I was like, dang. And funny enough, just recently, I was outside playing basketball with TJ, and he was like, "Dad, I remember the day when I realized that I was a person." Like he said that to me, and I
Wow.
was like, "What?" Like, and now, mind you, I was an adult. You get what I'm saying? So, again, the reason why I'm saying this now is because I understand that the way that I talk to them and the way that I relay information will speed these type of things up. But I also think that having clarity on what we're saying, so that way it's not so far beyond. I don't like. What do you mean, bro? Like, I'm not talking to you, but I'm just
No,
saying, like,
yeah.
what do you mean that I'm the constructor of everything that I have? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What do you mean I've defined everything that I have? When at some point somebody told me that was a plate. I didn't define it as a plate. You know what I'm saying? And it's just the agreements, that we don't realize that we have, or we can separate ourselves from that agreements as well. And that's the part that's, I think, a big challenge for people to overcome.
Yeah, I want to get back to what you said. Your son said about realize he was a person, but using the word realize, right? Real eyes, like we
Right.
we made it real. We made this thing real. Like everything exists in our imagination, and we've made this real world. We realize it into this physical reality, and when we brought it into physical reality, we started believing more in the physical reality than we do our imagination. Because now we have people who live most consistently, to their knowledge, consciously in the physical reality. And so they're telling you like, no, physical is real. This is the only thing that's real. This your imagination, that doesn't exist. But even like when we hear about the story of the conception of the world, it says made in his image, imagined, like and everything we experience, we know this existed in someone's vision first, someone's imagination first, and then they figured out the tools, or they brought in the tools into the world to make it real, to realize it. And again, we switch. We made the effect the cause, instead of the cause staying the cause and the effect being the world we see. And it's just a remembrance of like, just don't forget about your imagination. Trust your imagination. Trust the vision that you hold, that you want to be realized, that you can realize and it be real.
Yeah, man. And I know you said you were going to say something about TJ realizing that he was a person, but go ahead.
What did he say? I just want to ask, what did he say
Yeah,
with
yeah,
that?
yeah. He literally, again, it was just out of nowhere, and we were just kind of having a conversation, and he's like, I remember the first day when I realized that I was a person, and I thought I think on my own, and I was like, you know that day, and he was like, yeah, and I was like, well, that's pretty cool, man.
Wow.
You realize how much power you have now, and that's pretty much what I led him to think. But again, a lot of this is, you know kind of predicated on the way that his life is now. Because the things that I always tell him is, if you continue to be a good person, good things will happen to you. And just kind of give you a little insight on him that you don't know. Like, he was voted in his school to be in the Hope Squad. And the Hope Squad is the kids that go and talk to people about suicide, like helping them overcome that, right? But then not only that, he was voted by his classmates as the president of the Junior National Honor Society. Like all this stuff happened recently. And then on top of that, he was he made the debate team to be like the it's called United Nations debate team. So he's gonna travel from school to debate. All the way out making the football team, all the way out being on the basketball team. You know, he got all of this stuff going for him, and then also getting nominated to be a ball boy for the Dallas Mavericks. And so I told him it's because of the way that you see the world. You first of all think that all these things can happen to you. That has to happen first. There are some people that have the same opportunity as you, but think that there are things that can't happen. And again, the reason why I kind of pull these stuff to the forefront for him is because sometimes we don't have the money to do stuff, right? The actual money that you would think that is real, that you've been taught that if you don't have money, you can't do these things, right? But I've always showed him through these years that look what we've been able to experience without money, right? And so, but in spite of that, that's been given as a realization to him in his world, there's something on the background, our family, the way that me and you talk, that's helping him to realize that, you know what, I don't have to be in agreement with what everybody says. And again, one of the things, another thing that we touched on was we were talking about reviews again the other day, and he was like, they said this movie was this, and I said, I never listened to reviews. I said, because there have been plenty movies that somebody said was not a good movie and I loved it. And I said, you never have to be in agreement with what somebody else says. You come up with your own determination on it and then let that be the deciding factor. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I love that. Shout out to TJ doing all the big stuff. Yeah, and man, that's so true too. Like about reviews, because I know you said something about it in the other show as well, and I've been thinking about it, how we let other people's views shape our own before we've had time to even think about how we want to view it. And that's the key thing. Like it's fine to listen to others' views, but how do you want to see the world? Like really ask yourself, not you, but just anyone watching this.
Yeah.
Like ask yourself how, like if you can have the ideal world, how would you have it? And then just start looking at that, because I know oftentimes we seem to live in a society where people want to lock up people who don't share the same view that they share. But by doing that in a way, again, you lock a part of yourself up, because you're saying it's not okay to express views that aren't in line with what the majority view is. And that can be very hindering. But go ahead.
And two, just to, kind of add on to the illusory nature of it. Like whenever somebody and again, I know this for a fact because number one, I don't like listening to reviews because I won't purposely do it, but I will automatically subscribe to it. Like I will literally automatically subscribe to. Somebody told me something about somebody before in rap, right? I never listened to them, and then somebody else asked me about it, and I regurgitated what they said. And then in regurgitating what they said, I kind of somewhat assumed the same belief as them, right? And it's the way that we operate. It's just kind of the way that we move as people. That's the reason why a rumor ends up being a rumor, because people will grab hold of something and then they'll just continue to run with it. Not purposely, but it's just our nature. And funny enough, if you've known, the entire time that we've been rapping, one of the things that that I never wanted to do was I never want to hear your verse before I write a song. And the reason why is because in that I come up with a determination on what I believe in it, right? And fortunately, I get to rap with one of the greatest artists in the world, which is you. But I listen to it and I be like, man, dude, stuff is super tight. And so from that point, because of the judgment that I passed on it, I in turn start to pass judgments on every word that I say after that, which makes it more of a challenge for me to complete whatever it is I'm trying to complete. And so, if you just think about life that way, whenever somebody goes to be a realtor, right? And they come back and say, man, it was hard. I didn't have a belief in the beginning at all. I just knew that there's a pathway that I take, and I take that pathway. I don't know if it's either hard or easy, but what goes on from that point forward is everything that I started to study is like, I got to remember this because it's going to be hard. I got to remember this because it's going to be hard. I got to remember this because it's going to be hard. And it starts to make that trick much more difficult than it has to be because of the way that I've judged it or what I've made myself believe about it. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, and you, if you would have kept on that path, you would have realized that it was hard, and that's what's important about the word realize. Usually, when people say I realize something, they're saying it as if it's an absolute truth, and it's like no. That's just a truth for them based on the trajectory that they're on, the projections that they're making, that they're affirming to themselves. I shared this with you earlier, and I want to share with everybody. I was watching the Legacy documentary on Hulu about the Lakers, and they were talking about just their championships and all of that, and like with the Lakers for a while, like they won championships, but they never won back to back, and they finally did it. And then so now it was like with Kobe and Shaq and them, and it was time for them that they won a championship. It was time for them to win another one, and everybody's talking about how hard it is to win back to back. And they interviewed Phil Jackson on it, who was the head coach at the time, and he said, "Yeah, it's to win back to back championships is." And I said before he could even say it, it's tough, it's difficult, it's hard. Special is what he said. Yeah. He said special. And like that just stopped me in my tracks because it's like, man, like because there's even some things right now, even having this mindset, there's some things that I even still somehow deem them to be difficult things. And if I just replace that word with special, it changes everything about it. Like it now I'm wrapped into the experience of it. It's not so much about even the outcome. It's special. And that blew my mind.
And so to me, that's where agreeance makes sense because that the agreeance to that simple word changes the whole dynamic of what you're trying to accomplish in life, no matter what. That's the reason why even earlier when I said life is easy, because I'm trying to reaffirm to myself that no matter what I've heard, like there are plenty of sayings that say the opposite. Like you can look online, you'll find millions of them, right? So whenever I hear the things that that can shape the way that my illusory nature, the way that I see things, the way that I want my world to be, I subscribe to them. I try to make sure I yell them to the mountain. I've told you this before as well. And again, so come back. Sometimes the challenge of overcoming those reviews is more than you want to take on, right? And again, when I went to go take my real estate test the first time, when I was walking out the door, I was coaching the game. When I was walking out the door to go take the test, the assistant coach was like, "So you want me to take over?" I was like, "Yeah." He said, "What you going to do?" I said, "I'm going to go take my real estate exam." And he said, "Man, that thing is hard. My girlfriend failed it 7 times." In that moment, I heard what he said, I felt what he said, and I rejected it immediately. And I the way that I rejected it was I rejected it out loud because that's just the way Troy operates. I literally turned to him and said, "I don't know what your girlfriend was doing, but I'm not failing 7 times." And now again, that wasn't to down his girlfriend. That wasn't to down. That was literally to tell myself what the absolute truth was. And the truth was, I'm going to pass this the first time. Now I want to show you how there's a time when I didn't take that same subscription and it crippled me. And I went to school to get my loan officer license, and I haven't taken the test. I went through the classes. I passed the test in the classes, and before I was going through my process the same way that I normally would go through it. I said, okay, after I finish the classes, I'm going to reread the book so that way I can go and I can pass the test the first time. This is the way that I think. And before I could go and take my test, 2 people that took the same class with me that I've deemed as smart, that I deemed that would pass the first time, that I've described all these things within my own self without them knowing, this is what I think about them, right? Just like I told you, you the greatest artist. This is what I believe about you, and I would not accept anything else until you show me something different, right? Well, these people called me and was like, "Hey, Troy," both of them random, like probably I want to say one day after the next. "Hey, Troy, you wouldn't go take your test yet?" I was like, "Nah, man, I felt that mud. It was hard." I was like, "For real?" nah, I'm not gonna fail that much. I'm gonna pass that much. That's what I told myself the first time. When the second person called me, the next day was like, man, Troy, I failed that much. It was hard. And in that moment, it bit me. It bit me. And I knew it bit me because I wasn't able to overturn the thought process in my head in that moment. And from that moment, it crippled me from going to take the test. And again, it was never hard. It was never going to be a challenge. But from that, I kept going back to read the book over and over again, but I was mentally beat. And so again, it's one of those things which is the reason why you have to grasp a hold of the things that are for you, that you know are for you, in order for you to have the illusory nature that you need to move yourself where you're going. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. Shout out to Angela JClay. She said, I completely understand. I'm an artist and designer. I don't look at other people's artwork because I don't want to be influenced by someone else's work. Yeah. And so the interesting thing with that, because or to me, in a sense, like we almost can't not be influenced by people's work, but I do understand what you're saying. Like we want to make sure our vision is there first before we give way to others' visions. And similar to that, like what you said, like I definitely appreciate the compliments, Troy, about being a great artist. I actually, how do I say this? When people give me either compliments or critiques, it's not that I reject them. It's how do I see myself? Like how I see myself for me is the most important thing. That even if 100 people tell me something great, unless I want to accept that, I want to see through the eyes of that, it wouldn't matter. Even if 100 people told me something terrible, I'm like, oh no, y'all tripping, because I know this. This is, I might not know other stuff, but I know this particular thing, and it's important that we have that about our vision. Whatever, however we want to see the world, like make sure we're clear with it, and we do what's necessary to uphold that. No, not uphold, but to continue to see through those eyes. Go ahead.
So it's two things here, right? So number one, when I talk about myself, my belief in myself or what I felt like I could accomplish was not as strong as I thought it was at the time, which is the reason why I was crippled. Number one, right? But when I go back and I 100% wholeheartedly agree with you when you say that the feedback that I receive should not influence me. I have to know, and I'm telling everybody else, you should know yourself, who you are. That's first, right? But the second part to this is the giving of the critiques, right? Me telling JClay the positive, whether he's ready to receive it or not, doesn't matter to me. I'm telling him what I believe to be true for him, because now, when I ain't gonna say because, and now that's also something that can be true for me. That's also something that can be true for me because it's true for somebody else. Now, when this person told me that they were failing the real estate exam, there was no belief that they could pass it. And there was no belief that I could pass it either. They didn't have the belief that I can pass it. So therefore, it's going to almost be impossible for them to ever get over that hump. And so a part of me giving people what I know to be true of them, number one, not just to be telling anybody anything, is also to give myself a truth that I may not have believed in the first place. And then I'm going to go on to say this as well. I told you this before also. I used to write a song and I used to record it. And then when I listened to it, the first thing that I used to say was, man, Chardonnay and JClay gonna say this thing jam. That was the first thought that came to my head. I couldn't wait for y'all to hear it, to say, because I just knew that y'all were gonna say that it jammed. Now, I had a realization one day. I thought, now again, in me saying this, it's automatically assumed that I think that it jams too, right? You would automatically assume that I've told myself that this jam, or I assume that it jammed. But there was also a lingering thought that if y'all said that it didn't jam, that something in me was going to be broken. Again, this is all stuff that goes unsaid. And I told myself the last time I did that was, I'm going to send this to JClay, but I know this song jams. No matter what. Nobody can't tell me nothing about this. And that was a stark difference in the way that I felt about it. That was a stark difference in the way that it actually started to come out. And it also was a freeing thing. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I want to go back to what you were saying about the giving of compliments that you give, whether the receiver is ready to receive it or not. What's important about that is, again, like you said, what you give, you receive instantly. And a lot of people don't realize that. Like when you're giving a compliment, like if you're giving thanks for something, you can only give what you have. So this means that you're full of thanks to give. If you give hurtful comments to someone, you can only give hurt if you have hurt. And so you instantly also receive that hurt, not just for yourself of what you're holding on to in that moment, but you see a representation of it on the other person's face, or just from the feedback that you're getting from the world that you just projected onto. And so, yeah, I think it's important to remember that part of the equation too, to share. Always share what you want more of. To share is actually to keep. A lot of people think to share is to let go, that is gone. Like, no. The more that you share something, the more you keep it, the more you affirm it, the more you make it part of your projection makeup, so to speak.
And I will tell you a true testament of what we're saying. What you give, you instantly get. I can tell you, I haven't always been a person that was freely giving people uplifting advice in all corners that I was in. There was a time when I was just a kid and I wasn't worried about anybody else, right? And if you go back to ask some of the people that I might have grown up with, they might say anything about me. They might say, oh, he was crazy, but then you have some people that I've only uplifted, period. Like, and if you were to go to them and say something about me from back then, they would be in awe, like, nah, I don't believe that. There's nothing that you could do. There's nothing that you could do to make me believe that, right? And the reason why I point that out is because once you start to set a stage for yourself, that's what your world instantly becomes. Because even those people that you will go back and grasp, and they have their own thoughts, just like you can have your own thoughts about people from the past as well. The moment that you come into their sphere and you get a whiff of who they are, you instantly change, and so does the relationship, so does their life. And so that's why what you're giving off automatically comes back to you no matter what. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, who a person is to you in your life, you gave that meaning. You gave that definition.
Real talk.
So they're only ever going to be who you allowed them to be. And this is not saying that you have control over people. You just have control over your interaction with people. So again, they can be whoever they want to be when they're not in your presence. But in your presence, it's the frequency you're allowing. Are you do you see them as a terrible person? That's all you're going to see of them. Do you see them as a great person to be around? That's all you're going to ever see, because that's the vision that you're holding, that you're giving, that you're projecting off right now in this moment. And so it's very important to remember the choices that we have. And like, I'm not saying either way is right or wrong. Like, you have to see people as great or not great. Like, you have that choice, and just remember that.
But to your point though, and it's funny that this works out this way. And I'm with you. I'm not saying either. You're not supposed to be me. You're supposed to be you no matter what anyway. So, if you don't want to walk around and tell everybody they're great, you don't have to. But what I will tell you is, if you have adverse thoughts around someone, about someone, that is only yours to own. So if you're trying to live a life of being comfortable, right? This is how I feel. If you're trying to live a life of being comfortable, but you say certain people make you feel uncomfortable, every time you're around them, whether you interact with them or not, you're going to be uncomfortable. And that has nothing to do with them. And again, the thing that I remember more than not, the people that I did not like at a time before, and some of the people that at a time that I didn't like, they don't even know that I like them now because I haven't been given the opportunity to let them know that I like you. You know what I'm saying? We cool.
Yeah.
But at a time before I stopped not liking them, every time I was around them, my life was tense. And that's never what I wanted. But go ahead, Jay.
But check this out about the illusory nature of the world. So I always hop on this book called A Course in Miracles. And one of the things they teach is that, again, there are no private thoughts. And another thing that they teach in that is like, if you have a problem with someone, take some time out to just sit quietly, close your eyes, get in a comfortable position, and wrap them in the most divine, loving light that you can. And I've done this plenty of times, and I've had even situations of people where that I might have felt they did me wrong or something. I've done this, and then literally in the next couple of days, they may have called and apologized or something, like, because I was already, we're cool again in my mind, even though I haven't verbally said anything to them. And I say this to say, I know I shared this with you, Troy, last week, but I don't know if I shared it on the show. There was a person on the court that when I played basketball with, for whatever reason, it was this new guy. He just had this funny energy, like he was like slimy or something. Like I don't know how to explain it. And we never were on the same team. We just like, we may have talked stuff or whatever. But I was like, this crazy that like me not liking the person. I've mended all my relationships where there's no one that I don't like or have a problem with. And it wasn't that I had a problem with him. So anyway, I would take that time out to just, like, let me make sure I wrap him in this divine light. And then so last week, we ended up playing. We were super cool, joking around and stuff. And it was like, what was this between us? It was me. Like it was the energy that I brought. And we don't always want to take ownership of the energy that we're bringing to situations. But again, like this, that's the illusory nature of the world. It's all you. It's the world is you and God, your co-creation together. But it's mainly predicated on by what you want to see and how you want to see the world.
So, man, I'm gonna tell you how dope that is, as you just said. But I want to read what Angela K. Clay says. She says, "Choice is one of the most powerful tools we have." And you 100% right about that, because we're choosing everything and we don't even realize it half the time. But I like the fact that you said there was something about him. It was some kind of slimy, like slither, like something weird, and then you come to find out again. And I'm not saying that you're any of these things, because I don't think that you're any of these things. But you said the energy was really just yours, and it's crazy to think. Now, again, most people, and I'm telling you this, bro, you know this, most people are not going to ever come to the conclusion that that energy is me projecting. Most people won't do it. Like, that's the reason why we even get to have this conversation now, because me looking at myself that way is a bad thing. Number one. No, me looking at myself is that way is not a bad thing. Me looking at myself that way is a defining thing. It's a way for me to become the version of myself that I really want. And nothing's ever wrong with you looking at yourself to change yourself. It can't be, right? And so I just think that it's dope that you took the onus off of the guy and said, you know what, it's all me. And the reality of it is, the moment when you did that, the relationship changed. You know what I'm saying? The moment, the aura, the feeling, everything changed. And again, you're not alone in this, bro. Every time, look, bro, when TJ was just a baby, right? And me and Chardonnay were fresh in our relationship, and we would argue all the time because we were trying to bring two worlds together that were different, right? And TJ would ask me sometime, what's wrong, Dad? And I would tell him every single time, it's just me. It was just me, bro. I couldn't get that mug right, and I couldn't figure it out. Your mama was perfect. It was just me. And some listening to that might have felt like it was sarcastic. And even my internal being, in some sense, may have felt it was sarcastic, right? But the reality was, it was training me to stop putting the onus on anybody else. And what's funny about it all, no matter how you look at it, sarcasm or not, it always solves the problem. And that's what let me know the problem was always only in me. And I love the fact that you point that out. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, and what I love about the divine light exercise is it's a gentle way to go about it. And what I mean is
Yeah.
like I've done the thing where I blame myself. And like in
Mhm.
blaming myself, there was a negative connotation to it. Like I do this every time. I'm no good. I can't believe I did it again. You know what I mean? Like, but with this, it's not even saying that it's your fault. I mean, it is, but it's not saying it. It's just you're taking ownership of the energy that you want to have. You're letting that be the focus more so the focus of what you don't want. Like a lot of times we focus on what we don't want and saying we don't want it, but we're still focusing, expanding our world in it because we're giving all that attention to it. This way is saying, no, this is how I would have it be. This is how I want it to be reframed in my imagination so that no matter what the physical reality says, it is what it is. Like it is how I see it. And it makes me think of the quote in the Bible that Troy, you said, I think you said is your favorite quote is, what's your favorite quote in the Bible?
More blessed is he who believes and does not see.
Yes, because again, to me, like I feel like, and this could be a misinterpretation, but there is no misinterpretation. How you see it is how you see it.
Real talk.
Is that's saying how I see it in my blessed is though are those who see it in their imagination how they want it, but not necessarily see it in reality. And to me, like that's one of the most beautiful quotes there
but
is.
bro, like, and again, this is the truth of the matter. Like you're right. There is no wrong interpretation of that mud, right? But what I do know, the reason why I love that quote is that at some point, and we're talking about the physical world, right? There was nothing. And then somebody, like you said, had an imagination and they saw everything. And then you can, and I'm talking about God, right? And then there's all the things that we enjoy on a daily basis here on this earth, right? And all of these things were nothing at a time. And then somebody saw it. And when I more bled and you can look at that as a relationship too. I don't have a relationship with this person, but I will have a relationship with this person, right? More blessed is he who believes and does not see. Even though it's not there, I can make it be. And that's the reason why I love that, because it translates to everything. Like, you know, when we're on this show and we talk about all the things, we're always talking about the projection or things that the way that we would like it to be. Well, we're talking about what we haven't realized is at that moment. And when you start to believe in what you haven't been able to realize, it'll always come. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, like and one of the things about like salesmen, those who are great salesmen, they always say the same thing. I have to sell this to myself first. And that's true about your vision of the world. Like whatever it is you're trying to do or trying to experience that might not be, or that you think is not happening right now, convince yourself, see it in your imagination, see it so vividly that, again, it has no choice because people want to see what you see. When they see how passionate you are about something, they want to see like, okay, where's this person getting this passion from? Like, what is this? And they're willing to listen. They want to see. And once they share in that vision, it makes it so much easier for it to then become a reality. Because I mean, that's really what reality is. It's just shared vision. We're sharing a vision. That's why like attracts like, where like-minded people come together. Like even the so-called despicable things that you hear, I wonder, like, man, how did these people find each other to even know that they could do this kind of behavior together? But it's just the natural order of things. Like you're drawn to those who have a like-minded vision. So again, by changing your vision, you can change who you're attracting or the kind of circumstances and world that you're living in and attracting.
And I'm gonna add to that. You have to believe. You have to believe. You have to believe. You know, faith is big in what we're talking about. And again, you live it every day. That's one thing I like about Bashar. I know you be on Bashar too. And one of the things that I know he says, like you whether you agree to this or not, you're in agreement to it. It's just what it is. You believe that you can have everything you have now, which is the reason why you have it. And that includes the problems. You believe the type of problems that you have are the type of problems that you could have. Like, you don't believe that you have problems that a millionaire has, so you don't have those problems. And so, like, start having the faith of what you really want. Like, subscribe to what you want even if it doesn't look the way that you think it's supposed to look, because you don't know how it's supposed to look, believe it's going to look a certain way, and just go with that. See how it turns out. Well, go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, and the important thing about belief, like I love saying this, believing is be living in. So
That's
be living in that. And what that means is, like, some people may say they believe that peace is important, but they're not living in it when something chaotic happens, because they match that chaoticness instead of maintaining the peace. So they're not. So they say they believe it, but you can see in their actions because they're not living it in these moments. So believe is to be living in it. Be living in your vision. That vision that you have, that imagination of how you want the world to be. No matter what comes up, hold that vision. Reflect that vision so that that situation is like, oh shoot, I got to change the situation if I want to come and be around this person. So yeah.
Yep. And shouts out to Angela Clay. You don't even realize that you are making us better, and I truly believe that. So I appreciate you for giving us your commentary on everything. And man, look, if I can't, reiterate anything on the show, action. You have to start somewhere, and I know that it is easy to start because we start new things all the time. I know it's new, and we might be reluctant to do that, but just start trying to envision things differently than you see them now if you want something to change. And something simple as enough you said in the show was pick up something. You got a pen and say, okay, I know that it's a pen, but what else could this be? And those are just simple exercises to get to bigger things. I know this is a show about being perfect, but it could be a show about opening your eyes. It could be a show about two brothers going on a journey together. It could be a show about a million different things, and just realize that you don't have to always be in agreement with what's been told to you before. But that's all I got, Jay. And I just tell everybody, like always, remember, the only reason you think that you're not perfect is if you're looking at somebody else and saying you're not them, but you are perfect. Your journey is your journey. Your journey is okay. Your journey, the way that you experience life, it could be a testimony to somebody else to experience life their way as well. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, but what I say too about just perfect mode, about the idea of being perfect, is that once you realize your part in the world and how it's only reflecting what you're bringing to it, you realize that this system is perfect. Like this is perfectly perfect. It's not that we get what we deserve. We get what we give. We get what we give attention to. We continue. So again, like forgive equals forget. A lot of people say, man, I'll forgive, but I ain't gonna forget. Then you're not forgiving, because you're only doing one half of the equation. And you're holding this person to this that you said that you forgave them for. And so you're never free from it. You're stuck in this world where you can be a victim, where things can go wrong for you, instead of, again, reshaping this idea. So yeah, I'll end it that way there as well. And just like to thank everybody that joined us. Thank you. That's my Aunt Angela. And yeah, just appreciate everybody. Any final words, Troy?
Nah, that's it, man. It was a good show for myself, because I always love to re-energize myself in what I know. Yeah. And the reality of it is my reality, man. So yeah, I'm good with it.
And just remember, you're a perfect creation made by a perfect creator. So you might as well accept your perfection and enter perfect mode.
Yeah.
If I reminded you that you are perfect, would you argue me down or step into your perfection? Welcome to Perfect Mode, where there are no excuses, no expectations, and we explore the world without limitations. I'm JClay, rapper, the spiritual teacher, with my co-host Troy Washington, your friendly neighborhood realtor. Let's be real, so let's be perfect. Perfect. Everything, anything, anything.